There's talk about the economy recovering. I mean, things are better than maybe 2 years ago. But it's very important to establish for those who are affected by development in the economy, are they really feeling this recovery? Today we focus on the industry, manufacturing sector, when it comes to the recovery of the Ghanaian economy and how is it impacting on these sectors. And also, what about those who are in the banking space as well? And what about the concerns about dollarization of the economy and also recent actions that have been taken by the Bank of Ghana when it comes to that checks? All these issues wrapped up on PM Express as we look at the recovery of the Ghanaian economy and the industrial sector. As I engage the chief executive of the Ghana Association of that is Association of Ghana Industries, Chuma Kwabwa, is here with me in studio. And also on Zoom, we'll be getting the quick thoughts of the chief executive of the Association of Banks, John Ewa. So as industry specific, but also bringing in some of the players in the financial and banking sectors. All these issues wrapped up on PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about the recovery of the Ghanaian economy and industries. How are they feeling the impact of the numbers improving? Chuma Kwabwa is a chief executive of the Association of Ghana Industries. He joined me in studio here and said it's been quite a while and I hope things are okay. Interesting times, industries in the news again, some would say.
Yes. Well, we're always in the news.
Yeah.
Because we occupy a very important space in the economic arrangement. And indeed, we've monitored progress throughout the year. And so far, we've seen some improvement. And I think it's quite significant to talk about it. So,
I mean, the bit where we're trying to get some clarity on the numbers, I mean, the IMF will say that, or IMF said in their statement that they are seeing signs of economic recovery. Is that impacting, or the talk about the economy recovering, is that really impacting on the industries?
So we look at it from different angles. One, we have to look at the numbers. What is the numbers saying? Are we seeing recovery? And the recovery, there are indicators of recovery. The growth rate you experience on quarterly basis can be looked at, and that will give you an indication. The macroeconomic variables, the improvement there will also give you an indication of recovery. And then growth in key sectors like manufacturing, industry, and the rest will also give you an indication. And I think if you look at all these, it points to some positive development. I can go a bit into the details.
We'll be coming to the fine details, but one quick thing I also wanted to get your thoughts on is on an action that has been taken by the Bank of Ghana with respect to the issuance of that checks. And more than 200 businesses, they've been barred from getting even fresh credit within the banking sector as well. I mean, I believe that one way or the other, there might be one or even not one of your members or connected to any of these businesses that might be doing business that could be affected. Do you think it's a good move because it will bring confidence in the mood of payment for these checks?
Well, to be honest with you, I speak for businesses, and I always have sympathy for businesses. So in situations like this, I have a difficulty condemning and overly condemning business because we don't know the circumstances that led to that. Because sometimes, genuinely, they have challenges. They issue a check with the anticipation.
But these are persistent, I mean, on 3 occasions.
So I was coming to that. So you issue a check with the anticipation of certain inflows. Sometimes you issue a check against expected inflows. So when the inflows are not coming, then the check would not be honored. So in such situation, it becomes a difficulty. But the challenge I'm having with this, in overly also defending businesses, the fact that they've been persistent because the Bank of Ghana says it's happened about 3 occasions, and it means that they've been cautioned. And the punitive measures have always been there. The law is clear that you should not issue dark checks. And if you go to most of the banks, they even display it. So it means that businesses should be aware of not engaging in something like this. So on that score, it's very difficult to also support this. And therefore, I think that the measure taken by Bank of Ghana, especially in the wake of concerns about cedi depreciation, the challenges we have in the foreign exchange situation and the confidence that has to go with it. You know, everything is speculative. If you have confidence in the system, you know that when you issue a check, for example, to be cleared, you will not even bother to arrange for foreign exchange to hide and all that, because business transaction must go on. So I think that much as I sympathize with the companies, I think that they should also learn to do the right thing. And if you have genuine difficulty, when you issue a check, you have genuine difficulty in terms of some expected inflows that wasn't coming forth, you can quickly inform the person, or your customer, or the person you have issued a check to, your supplier, and say, please hold on to it. I will sort you out. Then I think this can be, and that's what most businesses do. But if you consistently do this, then it's as if you are deliberately doing so, or you are ignoring the basic tenets of banking transaction. So in that case, I think that what Bank of Ghana is doing is sending a signal to the system that be careful the way you handle your transactions. If you're unsure, don't issue checks. Negotiate with your supplier or whoever you owe, and I'm sure there will be a solution to it. So it's really a step in the right direction to send signal to the system. But I may sympathize with the people because I don't know their circumstances.
3 years, they can't get access to credit within the banking system.
I think that is actually on the punitive measure is actually on the higher side, especially since all these years, Bank of Ghana has not enforced such a measure. And it's been, I think it's been happening. So suddenly you come in and, you know, it's quite strong. So that's where, if I had the opportunity, I would have pleaded for some leniency in terms of the time, the period of the sanction. That could have come down a little bit. But the fact that they are trying to institute some punitive measure to prevent similar occurrences in the future, I think that
you think it's quite a punitive measure, and again, the fact that they cannot get access to credit within the banking system for 3 years. These are over 200 businesses.
And that is where I have a concern, because you see, these are businesses that are employing people and they have transactions to do. So you are more or less saying, hey, you better close shop, because if you can't, especially if the nature of the business requires you to be constantly borrowing and doing banking transactions, you are being taken completely off the banking sector. So it's really unfortunate. And if there's a way of reconsidering the level of the measure and reducing the level of punishment and reducing it a little bit, I think that would be great.
Mr. Chumakoba, it will be a good time to quickly bring in the Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, that is Johnny Wiafe, as well, to join us quickly on this particular issue. Mr. Wiafe, for you at commercial banks, excited because this is a big challenge for you, or, well, it could come with some implications for the whole financial intermediation and even banking as well when it comes to sanctioning these more than 200 businesses for persistent issuance of that checks?
Yeah, thank you very much, George. And good evening to Mr. Akwabo. I'm a very good friend in studio. I agree with you on a lot of things, but this is where I'm sure we are going to have some level of sharp departure from the views that you have expressed. It's not just good for the banks, it's good for the financial system. We need to ask ourselves, why do we issue checks? It's a piece of paper. It's the trust that goes with that instrument. The moment people frivolously issue out checks without any expectation that it will be honored, what they are doing is taking away the confidence and trust of users of that financial instrument. And if you continue doing that, what happens is then you are driving people away from legitimately transacting in that financial instrument. And that is where I'm saying, I think Bank of Ghana even stopped short of going the full length of applying their own rules, which is to publish the names of these miscreants in widely circulating national newspapers. The directive says at least two, so that if someone is your neighbor and has his or her name or a business on that list, they will be mindful, or next time somebody else will be mindful that apart from me being stopped from using the financial system in terms of establishment of credit, I'm potentially going to expose myself, my neighbors, my friends, my community will get to know that I've been frequently issuing checks, knowing very well that they will be dishonored. I think it is one good thing that is the central bank has come up to implement their own rules. And George, it's not just a central bank directive. It is actually in the Criminal Offences Act. It's a crime to issue that checks. And the fine, it goes with the fine and or imprisonment of up to 5 years. It's in our criminal code. So the central bank is not doing anything out of the ordinary. It is so important because of the potential of taking away the trust in that instrument. I have an experience where I went to a merchant to purchase an item. I didn't have cash on me. I always carry my check around, and I issued a check. And this is a merchant who actually knows me, but said, "Oh, sir, you know what? I'll take your check, and it's because of you I'm taking the check, but you have to wait for the check to clear before you can come for the item." Trust in the relationship is destroyed because of his past experiences. We should stop this from happening, and we should bring full confidence and trust in the use of checks in this country. And I think this is a very positive step in the right direction.
Mr. What do I get from you that you want the names of more than 200 businesses published? Because these are your clients, some will say. It has its collateral damage.
It is not John Owuah who is saying that. That is what the directive says.
So you want them published?
You inform the customer after first incidents. You record and report the customer to the Credit Reference Bureau. If the customer repeats over, and then you put the customer under surveillance. If the customer repeats the act within 3 years, you now report to Bank of Ghana and continue keeping the customer's record at Credit Reference Bureau. The third successive period, within that 3-year period, that is when central bank takes action. And the directive says central bank will take the action, inform the banks, and publish their names in a widely circulating national daily, at least 2 of them. And there is an important component that goes with that requirement. It is to set an example for others who potentially may be considering using checks as a financial instrument that they do not really trust, that it will maybe settle, but they go ahead to issue because they are, in the interim, maybe cash trap, or they want to just benefit from a certain business relationship when they know they do not have the funds to authenticate or clear or give value to those checks.
But Mr. Wa, I was asking you one question about the fact that I know the law says that, but there have been several instances in the banking space where the law gives a discretion even to the bank and the regulator, and it has not been enforced to the letter. More than 200 businesses, and from what I'm picking up, for some of these businesses that have been identified, they are quite big. So if they should publish their names, and I know that George Wiafe and Sons is a big business, and this has been done. Aren't you worried about the implications on your dealings with that business and even the whole financial intermediation space?
I think that is the whole essence of the exercise, is to weed the system from users who abuse the trust in that system. And the banking system is a highly regulated sector. That's the first thing we must all note. And anyone who comes to the banking arena or the financial system has to carry a certain kind of credibility, because someone is just taking a piece of paper in exchange for value. And it's important that that trust is not compromised. So if you are a big business, then you have to let it reflect in how you transact your business. And I heard Seth talking about instances where customers have called the bank to stop the check, or called the payee to stop the check, or one way or the other, so that it doesn't get to the point where you get reported. There are avenues, and that check is only applicable when you issue that instrument against an account or on a drawee bank where you do not have funds to settle or to give value to that instrument. And I think, in my view, it is a positive development. And if you are a good businessman, a business of good repute, it should reflect in your conduct. And your conduct includes how you use financial instruments and how you access financial services. And good businesses, in fact, it will be very difficult for good businesses to go through this and to get to the point where they get reported 3 times.
So I get from you that the window is still open to still engage the Bank of Ghana to enforce their own laws and letter. But again, the bit about, on your part, enforcing this, these businesses cannot have access to fresh credit for the next 3 years. How committed are your members in enforcing this?
You need to talk to suppliers, talk to banks, talk to other traders, and how much money they have lost through that checks. It will amaze you. People have taken goods and disappeared, and people are stuck with piece of paper that cannot generate value. So much as the banking system is interested in ensuring that customers can trade freely, have their transactions safely and securely traded, we are also interested in the safety and sanctity of the financial system. So it is important that we place a lot more value on that than the discomfort that a few businesses. We are talking about millions of customers against 229 odd number that have flouted the law. It's like saying that, why are you putting this man to jail? He just stole a piece of cake. And meanwhile, there are 35 Ghanaians. Are we going to use 1 or 2 people to say, because it's just 2 people, why are we going ahead to jail these social miscreants, or maybe a petty thief? The point is, are we prepared to enforce the law that we ourselves have put on our books? There is one thing that media people you like to say very much, which is to say, Ghana, we have all the laws under the sun. What is lacking is implementation. But what I find sometimes surprising is when we take action, or the system takes action to implement the laws that have existed. The Criminal Offences Act is 1960. It's existed on our books since 1960. Section 313 has been on our Criminal Offences Act, Act 29 or so, since 1960. And you are saying that in 2024, we are giving credence to operationalize it, and you are saying we should continue behaving like we are in 1940?
Mr. Well, I want you to hold in a little bit, because I'll come back to you as well, and Mr. Sechimako. But a very interesting thing happened yesterday when the Minister of Finance was engaging the Association of Ghana Industries. And my producers I'll be glad for you to bring back that video of the Minister of Finance and the concern that he expressed when it comes to the bit about how some industries are kind of contributing to the challenge with our local currency. And if my producers are ready, we want to hear the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam.
There are some companies, they manufacture, they sell, and they accept cash, physical cash, from their sales. And when they have done that, they don't keep the cash in the banks. They go and convert it into US dollars and keep the dollars. That contributes to the Forex problem you are talking about, Humphrey. That's correct. We need to check that. And I have reports upon reports of some of the companies that are doing that. The day we start pursuing them, Humphrey is going to organize a press conference and say, you are harassing my members. You are harassing my members. One manufacturing company, a oil processing company, went and placed 50 million US dollars in a bank, and yet did not even have a third of that in cedis to back the 50 million they were demanding. And that alone took the depreciation of the cedi by 2 cedi points. When it was 13 cedis to the dollar, it went up to about 15 cedis to the dollar because of 50 million US dollars placed in one bank, which was not backed by the cedi equivalent.
And that is the concern being shared by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, with respect to certain activities in the industrial space. And we have the AGI CEO here contributing to the current pressure on the Ghana cedi. Let me quickly also bring you the quick thoughts of the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, about how should we or how can we fight dollarization of the economy? What is the way out?
What else can you do about expectations? What else can you do about uncertainty about, the economy, given the fact that we have an election coming up? You tell me. So it's not everything that can easily be, handled. Some of them are very complicated.
We're talking about the fact that the best way to deal with the dollarization issue is about working to stabilize the Ghana cedi. Quick one said before I just get the thoughts of Mr. What do you make of these? I know you were responding to several fora, but what do you make of these concerns by the Minister of Finance about the activities of some of your members that is contributing the same depreciation that AGI is complaining about?
Yes. Sorry, John. John, yes, I was at the program,
yeah,
and the minister was spot on. We are an association of principles. We go by good ethical standards, and we know that speculative aspect of business can create all kinds of problems for all of us, and therefore we will not in any way condone and accept such development. So. Unfortunately, the minister didn't disclose names, so we don't know which company we are talking about. But of course, I don't doubt him. He's a minister, and he's speaking to facts. And therefore, such occurrences are unfortunate, and I think it just shouldn't happen that one company will place such an order, and then the whole banking sector, everybody's looking for funds for him, and for that reason, it causes depreciation of a cedi. I don't think that is fair to the economy, that's fair to the system. But I don't think that he also meant to say that is the only cause. There are several factors that are contributing to the depreciation
pressure.
The pressure on the cedi. And I think if you want to solve it, fine. These kind of occurrences should be nipped in the back, but I think we should look at the larger picture and see what is really causing it and try to deal with it. We have always said that as long as you have lower levels of production in your country, and you're importing so much, there's always pressure on your cedi. That will forever be there until you're able to resolve that. And the other aspect of it is how you manage the whole currency arrangement. Proper intervention at the right time. So, for example, if there's pressure, the demand for the cedi is high, the dollar is high, at what point should Bank of Ghana come in? To be able to intervene at the right time. It takes out the speculation so that the real people who need it will actually borrow. So those are the aspects that...
I'll come back to you quickly also on the bit about the dollarization, but I think that Mr. Wan may have to leave us in the middle of the program, so I'll go back to you
But before he leaves, on the issue of the
dark checks,
the dark checks, I don't think we had disagreement at all. He prefaced his statement by saying we have some disagreement, but I don't think we have disagreement because I made a clear point that we shouldn't condone and connive and accept all kinds of business transactions that do not help the business themselves, everybody in the system, because trust and confidence and credibility is key in all these arrangements. So I agree with him. I was only saying that perhaps the level of the punishment, especially since this measure has been there all this while, but it's never been implemented. So when it comes up like that, it sends some shock.
That is where there's the point of disagreement.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Mr.
But in principle, I think it's...
Let me bring in Mr. Wua for a quick comment as he will leave us in the middle of the program. Mr. Wua, worried? I know you've been in the banking space for quite a long time. And this accusation about people betting, even placing requests just to move the currencies, worried by these developments, or it is a one-off thing that, George, we shouldn't worry?
No, if we are having as a country significant volatility in the local currency, it's not a good thing. It doesn't help with planning. It doesn't help with a proper management of business operations. As banks, it doesn't help with our ability to forecast, and also it has implications for non-performing loans. So it has significant implications aside what the people see obviously, as city moving, in a certain, uncharted path or some direction that becomes more aggressive. But the danger to the economy is this. If we all decide that because of a blip 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we all go on the black market and we begin chasing dollars because we are losing trust in the local currency, we are just setting a trap for ourselves because it's a prophecy that we will fulfill ourselves. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's no currency that can stand significant or extensive volume of speculation. Yes, our currency is free trading, is floating, and people are free to transact in it. But if all of us, we don't have need for dollar or any foreign currency now, and all we are doing is looking around who has dollars to buy, what we are doing is we are contributing to the pressures we are seeking to avoid. So if those of us who are contributing significantly to the depreciation or to the speculation, if we take a step back, then what we are seeking to prevent, we will be the solution to that depreciation. Let's test it and see. We've seen it. When people have started offloading because currency has stabilized or appreciated over some days, you will clearly see that it is not a matter of excessive demand. It's a matter of forced demand, where people who don't have need for foreign currency are all over the place, chasing parallel markets, for foreign currency. And that is one thing that, as Ghanaians, we should be interested in helping to stop, because that prophecy, we do not want it to be fulfilled, and therefore we do not want we don't want to be part of that problem. If the problem so affects us that we want to hedge against its occurrence. It's a very simple thing. We have one currency in this country. That is the base currency of the country. It's called Ghana cedi. There are financial instruments, there are financial products available in Ghana cedis. You can take your Ghana cedi, go to a bank and invest in Ghana cedis. And all of us, if all of us take these steps, and the business community that is occasionally looking for dollar, come in when they need it because there is certainty that the demand will be met, we will not have the kind of pressure that we exert in our own currency in preference to a country we have not visited before. The currency of a country we have not even visited before. We want to hold their currency in our local country. I think sometimes is the ease with which we are able to get foreign currency in the country is part of the problem. And perhaps that is another area that the central bank may have to take another look at. I know that there have been in the past attempts at stopping certain things. I don't know why those decisions get reversed or over time they went down and nobody follows up. But the extent to which people can quote dollar in trotro and in taxis and just be trading and talking about the currency as though that is the currency that the Central Bank of Ghana prints is alarming.
Do you want more restrictions in the ease of flow of dollars in the local economy? Some will call the dollarization thing. The laws should be applied, the regulations should be applied.
The laws are there. Let's apply the laws that we have to the letter first. Let us aggressively chase out the black market operators. If you are in a country where the parallel market is more or less the market that is setting the price of your currency, you are in trouble. The central bank has a big job on their hands. If the monetary policy is being run from cow lane, then it's a problem. And whatever it takes, we know the locations where these guys are operating. If you put a few of them in jail, it will send a certain signal.
Are you willing to collaborate with the authorities to help deal with it? Banks play a critical role.
We banks are very willing, able, and want to do it. If there is anything that we can do to facilitate that process, our doors are open. there are forex bureaus that are licensed to transact in foreign currency. The people who are creating the massive problems, we all know them. They are the people in long suits, long jarabias and the thing on the street in Cow Lane who are sitting there, and their product is dollar and CD, and they display it on the streets. You understand? So the impunity with which their operations are even delivered is an avenue that ensures that at least law enforcement can move in, do a swoop. If every day they are sweeping the market a couple of times, it will drag them deeper and deeper into the dark, and over time they may find some alternative, something to do. We need to move to the step where we have that trust in our own currency, because we are not ourselves putting excessive pressure on the currency to the extent that we record this kind of depreciation that we have seen. Of course, what Seth mentioned is legitimate. Apart from the dollarization of the economy, the overdependence on imports is another area of yes, it's not a day and night thing, but I think there are steps that can be taken in that area as well to gradually get down on some of the toothpicks and toothbrushes and stuff that we import in this country when there are clear substitutes in the country. There are things that we want to solve our problems and still enjoy the comfort from other countries. No. Sometimes you need to bite the bullet by taking the harsh decisions. It can, in the interim, be very inconvenient for all of us. But over time, we need to be certain in our mind that we are fixing a structural problem. And if we are all contributing to the fixation of a structural problem, over time, we will begin seeing the benefit. And by that time, the industries we are saying do not exist will come up, because now they can't even compete with these imports. They are coming from all kinds of borderless lanes into the country, not paying taxes. So if you set up a factory in Ghana, you are not able to even compete with them. They will drive you out of business. So we need to be part of the solution. Being part of the solution is dressing like I'm dressed now, and buying made in Ghana, eating made in Ghana, and gradually the things that we can take off our personal menu, our personal wardrobe, in the things that we can easily get. Ghana made shoe, Hillbill shoes is there in this country. George Wiafe should be wearing Hillbill shoes. The moment we start doing this, you then become a proponent of the solution you want to see, and you become an agent for that solution, and not that we are like a prophet, and every time we are saying, we said it was going to depreciate, and it has happened, when we are the ones who are causing it.
Mr. Well, quick one before I let you go. I mean, the allegation made by the Minister of Finance, I mean, not to mention anybody's name, is it really happening where people force do these things just to move the rates on the market?
Of course, the minister has said it. I'm sure he has his own sources. Sitting here, I'm wondering how somebody can carry $50 million to a bank, and how the bank can pick $50 million from a customer. But of course, I'm not doubting what the minister has said. He may have a source. It may be a valid source. But as an operator in the industry, I'm asking myself how that is possible. Particularly
the bit about placing the request that I have, not necessarily the physical money being seen, because we've had instances or heard where people place requests that I have this money, bring this rate, and all those things get around the market, and they cause some shifts.
Yeah, we saw that in the oil sector before Bank of Ghana came out with the auction window for the BDCs, for instance. A BDC will pick one LC and go to about 5 banks to place FX requests with 5 banks. So 5 banks will be in the market looking for dollar to settle an LC of 10 million, but they are looking for 50 million because 5 banks are looking for the LC for the same customer. And when that situation happens, you are just artificially increasing the demand and putting unnecessary pressure on the currency. So the auction, which aggregates the demand, and then the central bank will come to the market and give us what it is possible, capable of meeting. I think is one strategy that perhaps has helped us. Otherwise, we may have.
But you don't think that these things are happening now in terms of people moving around to move the rates up? It's not happening now.
I cannot vouch for that, but what I can say is our inability to aggregate the demand, which will mean that it is possible that speculators may artificially inflate the demand in the market by just creating demand. Oh, can you get me 100,000? And then they'll go to 10 banks looking for 100,000. When they want to settle a bill for 100,000, then the 10 banks will be looking for 100,000 each, which is a demand of 1 million. And that will then put pressure on the currency. I do not have the data to support that, but of course, if you don't have a system to arrest and consolidate the demand for the foreign currency for legitimate causes, then that is an avenue that people can abuse.
So, well, I appreciate your time, Sumai. I knew you were in the middle of a very important meeting, but I had to still step aside and make time for us. Thank you so much for it. I mean,
yeah. Greetings from Freetown.
Thank you so much. He's out of the country. Actually, he was supposed to have been here with that. But if I mean, you might. There are some who want to. I'm not using the word trivialize the concerns of the Minister of Finance, but it is quite serious if it's coming from manufacturing firms.
No, it is serious. It is serious. But as John said, the minister may have a lot more and has more information than we do.
Yeah.
He knows privileged information. So who are we to doubt him? So we cannot doubt him. And he's expressing concern. And indeed, it's something that when it happens, affects everybody. I mean, all the businesses are affected because the city is depreciating. And when it's depreciating, I mean, the manufacturers in Ghana, we suffer the most because you have imported raw materials. By the time you finish processing and selling and getting the money back, you're going to pay, your city has depreciated. So you need more cities for the same amount of dollar. So we are heavily affected when it happens. And therefore, if there's anybody who is doing things that is not helping the situation, that would be quite unfortunate. However, I think that he mentioned something which is quite important. He said in the oil sector, something like that was happening. Then they developed the solution to it. So getting a solution to things also helps. And therefore, I think we have to be, within the banking sector, there has to be some vigilance here. That if one person places that kind of order, how do we handle it? Should we start going around and knocking heads and trying to mobilize at all costs? Shouldn't we question it? Shouldn't we raise issues concerning this request that the person has made? And instead of trying to meet his demand and speculating and creating this challenge for all of us, shouldn't be another way of handling it.
We think we should go that way to deal with this challenge.
We should go that way to deal with it. And then, as he said, if you aggregate the demand and know the key, and such a person or such a company, I'm not sure it's just one-off demand. Such a company may be regularly demanding certain volumes of dollars. So shouldn't we single them out and say, well, this kind of company, this is how we are arranging things for you, so that they don't speculate. I think part of the reason for the speculation is also that when I need the dollar to buy stuff, maybe I've even ordered goods on credit. I have time to pay. And the recent depreciation that happened, some of our members were telling me that I have an order to pay, I have the money, but I'm not getting the dollar to go and pay. Then I'm defaulting. If I default, I affect my credit line. So in the future, what he will do is that if in the next 3 months, I need to go and pay for goods I've ordered, then I better, if I get any cedi, let me change to dollar and wait until I get enough, so that by the time I need it, if there's even no dollar in the system, I'm able to pay so I don't lose business. So that aspect is also there. And therefore, the bottom line is that we need to bring confidence into the system. Because no business worth its salt would like to keep money, buy dollars and hoard for that long. Your money is like a blood running through you.
Liquidity, you need to move things around.
You need to move liquidity around. So you can't just hoard money just for the sake of speculation. I think we need to create a solution for it. And
the governor of the Monetary Policy Committee press conference made a very critical point when we were trying to find out, or we sought to find out from him, or I sought to find out from him about the current drivers of the pressure. Because first we were told that when we get an IMF second agreement, the cedi will stabilize. When we get an agreement in principle with the bilateral countries, the cedi will stabilize. When we're able to reach agreement with the Eurobond holders, and still the cedi was under some pressure. So we sought to find out from him about what is causing this. He mentioned the election-related issues and then the negative sentiment. But he also raised a critical point about the fact that the antidote to dollarization is firmly stabilizing your local currency. Because these are rational businesses. I mean, when I go to the market as a manufacturing firm, nobody will tell me that, oh, you should be a Ghanaian. I am paying, settling and all those. So he thinks that everything must be done to firmly stabilize the cedi, and we can deal with all these. What do you make of that argument he's been making?
No, it's a solid argument, and I think I even made it earlier, that the long-term solution to this is to improve your local production, and then you don't import so much, so you don't put pressure on your cedi. But I think that there are different ways of dealing with it. You have to look at it from the short-term point of view, medium and long-term. In the short-term, as I said, intervention by Bank of Ghana becomes important. And you mentioned the IMF coming into being and all that, and Eurobond agreements, all this coming into being should have helped to help
firmly stabilize the cedi.
Exactly, but that didn't seem to have happened. So we need to question it, because if IMF, and I remember at the time we were having the depreciation, we had just received the second tranche or so, over $300 million has come into the system. So where is that money? Was it pumped into the system? Was Bank of Ghana able to pump it, or we have limitations? I think the structure of the IMF agreement also has to be looked at, because if there are limitations as to the amount of dollars Bank of Ghana can pump into the system to show up your cedi, you may have the money, but you can still not use it to deal with the challenge you have. So those are aspects.
The Bank of Ghana, and again, still coming back to the recovery of the economy and how it's impacting on your operations. I mean, the data we've seen from the commercial bank, but Mr. Was gone. Would have put this thing back to you. In May, the cedi's rate of depreciation against the dollar was around 7%. In June, it came down to 4%. In July, it's about 1%. Some are saying that in the financial space, things doesn't happen like a one. We are seeing the rate of depreciation slow significantly against the dollar. Are you feeling that on the market? Because this is the data from the banks that depreciation is slowing, and now the cedi is responding to all these things that has happened in the market, in the financial space. Are industries feeling that in the nominal rate? I had somebody called me who was complaining that he wanted to withdraw his own dollars from the banks. About 2 months ago, he was struggling to get that. With these macro numbers, and let's first focus on the cedi, are industries feeling this slow rate of depreciation with respect to when you are transacting business, letters of credit, and all the rest? So, well, the trickle-down effect is yet to be felt.
Yes, it's yet to be felt, but it's not to say that it's not happening. The fact that it is happening, the depreciation is slowing down, means it's positive. And businesses react, their reaction to dynamics in the system. It's not overnight reaction. It doesn't change just so fast. They monitor a little bit. They do trend analysis. Is it really falling? Is the cedi really gaining? And if the cedi is gaining, when I go to the market, am I getting the dollar I need? Am I able to do the transaction I want? If that is happening, then you begin to feel it. But it takes a little bit of time, honestly, because today you go, and this flip-flop situation we've been experiencing, normally when it happens, the confidence in the system is weak. And therefore, even if it's improving, people don't react so quickly. So it is good that it's slowing down, the cedi depreciation is slowing down, but even if it's not being felt so much, it will be felt very soon. And I think that from all indications, looking at the other data concerning the macroeconomic variables and all, there's been some improvement, and definitely companies will feel it. But it has to reach a certain point before you really feel it. At this moment, for us, at the beginning of it is important. That's confidence coming back. Once you have a certain level of confidence, then you can migrate to another level of growth. So I think that I wouldn't say it's impacting so much drastically, but the fact that we are experiencing gradual slowdown in the depreciation of the cedi is good.
There are some who would want to look at manufacturing industrial space as playing a very critical role. Let's still focus on the local currency and the depreciation, the city and all the rest, in terms of manufacturing more locally, exporting more. I stand to be educated, but it appears that for most of your members, and correct me if I am wrong, it is more, has become more of a packaging. They are also just importing everything, repackaging them and throwing it on the market. The real manufacturing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would have helped again with the local currency. We are not seeing that.
Well, I think you are right and wrong. No, because there's significant manufacturing going on.
Oh, I see.
When you speak to some of the companies, the value addition, some of them,
Locally,
not
the boxed down stuff and repackaging them, and then
some are doing significant local manufacturing, especially those that are sourcing the raw materials locally. If you take those that are doing fruit juices and all that, the materials, that is the fruits are coming locally. So you're virtually doing everything.
You're not importing them from Brazil, South Africa, and all the rest.
Of course, sometimes they have challenges. I'm interested in talking about it. Because sometimes, because we don't have our arrangements, our supply chain is not so efficient, sometimes you run short of supplies and then they begin to import. And that's the unfortunate part. So I'm saying that there is some amount of manufacturing going on, significant. And I think that we must also not forget the fact that in this world, nobody does 100% manufacturing today. A lot of it is value addition. So the level of value you are adding is very important to talk about. And I think Ghana, the manufacturers are adding quite a number of value. But of course, you can do better. We can do better if you do backward integration, if you have our value chains, and we also target critical materials to be produced locally and then supply to manufacturing companies. Then we can add more value. The more the value you add, the lower your cost of production, all things being equal, and then the better.
Let's come to policy bit as well, regulatory interventions and all the rest, and what can be done. I stand to be corrected. I think somewhere in the mid-year budget review, there was talk about some way of incentivizing in terms of locally produced stuff or outsourcing, or government ensuring that when it comes to procurement, priority will be given to firms and industry that source locally and all the rest. Let's first get your quick response to that policy measure in the budget that we are hearing, and also the bit about whether we have to do more to incentivize industries that are sourcing locally and doing everything locally and are not the drop-down box stuff thing. Quick one on that stuff in the mid-year budget review,
Yes, one of the major advocacy points of AGR all these years is that everybody should buy local products. And we think that government, being the major or the number one procurer of all goods in the country, should also look at ensuring that its agencies are procuring or sourcing locally. And I think that is something that the Minister for Finance in the midterm budget review did a very solid job on, by insisting or coming out with a policy that, listen, all government institutions, if you are buying or sourcing products, give me the indication that there's no alternative in Ghana. If there is, I insist that you buy locally. And there are several areas. For example, cocoa. Cocoa is a major product for Ghana. Export market. The basic material in the chain there is what? The jute sacks. Are we producing some locally? Yes. Why are we still buying from outside? So if minister says, next time when you are buying, ensure that you actually look at local sourcing. Perfect idea. And we support him, and I think we should go out and support him for that. And if you take the energy or electricity industry, we are producing cables, we are producing transformers, we are producing so many things here. Make sure you source it locally. So if government is procuring, any government agency is procuring, and they make a request to the Minister for Finance and request that sanction the procurement of this and transfer money outside so that we can buy these items, I expect the minister to stop it. If we do so, we are sending a signal in the system. We are reducing the pressure on the city. We are encouraging local producers to produce more of this because we are creating market and demand for them. So I think it's a solid thing the minister has done, and we must commend him for that. And indeed, we should support it. And not just support him, but monitor. because the minister is just one person and his team is just, a small group. All the agencies across the country. It should be a fear that is issued. Agency must be responsible for
let me bring in the argument about capacity. And I remember that in previous instances where I've engaged at institutions, someone said that I placed a request for this company to even produce chocolates for me for Christmas. It came in January. Some came even in February. There's a real challenge also about capacity when we are pushing for domestication, consume locally, save these dollars. How do we deal with that challenge when still there are a lot of your members who are having issues with capacity to meet these requests on time?
Yesterday, I made a presentation when we met the minister, and I highlighted a number of products and actually proved to the audience that indeed some of the products we have excess capacity.
Interesting.
It will interest you to know that.
Like?
I mean, installed capacity in some of the products is so big that they must necessarily export to stay in business.
Wow.
Okay? If you take cables, for example, we have 4 cable manufacturing companies here. They are all producing below capacity. So if there is demand for their products, put them together. They can supply all the needs of the country.
I'll just a rude time to interrupt. We'll take a quick commercial break. And I'll be right back and get more on this capacity issue and which of the product. This is PM Express Business Edition. As we look at the recovery of the economy and how it's affecting industrial space. And also, we had the thoughts of a banker on issues about the depreciation of the Ghana cedi and how we can come around that challenge. This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about the recovery of the Ghanaian economy and how that is affecting several sectors of the economy. They talk about the macro numbers, but what about those in the sectors? Are they feeling the impact of this or not? Sechu Mokabwa, the Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Ghana Industries, will be here in studio. One thing that he was making the point before we went on the break was about the capacity issue. And I still want to get that thing from you, that do you have the capacity to meet the demand as you celebrate this measure from government in terms of getting staff?
So there are a few things we need to take note of. First of all, I don't think any country is self-sufficient in all products. So there are certain products we are not producing in the country. And therefore, we will not in any way resist an effort to bring them into the country. That is one. There are certain products that we are also producing, and maybe capacity level may be relatively low because the demand has not been created that much. Therefore, people have not put in so much investment, installed capacity may be low. But there are several other products that we have excess capacity or we have adequate capacity supply.
Like?
For example, diapers. I gave you cables. Cable, if you put the 4 companies together, the volumes that they are doing, they can satisfy the whole demand in Ghana. The installed capacity, the machines are there, the factory facilities are there. Once the demand comes, they'll bring in more materials and process. So the demand, the capacity is there. If you take the oils we consume, I mean, go and see a factory like Walmer's factory and several others producing high-level quality products, and they are all producing under capacity. If you take diapers, the company that are producing diapers, their total production volume is about 3 billion pieces per year. One company is doing about 2 billion. The total demand in the country is about 1 billion. And they have a way of estimating that. They look at the population size, growth rate, so many things. And then the experts who do this calculation, they're able to estimate the total demand of the country, the total national demand. And indeed, if they don't export, they can't be in business because the country is too small for them. There are several products like that. So therefore, if we talk about capacity, it's not any product. We have capacity in certain products. So for those products, but meanwhile, even though we have capacity in those products, we are still struggling in the market because the imports are so much. And unfortunately, when it happens and they come in cheaper for various reasons, then they undermine the market. You cannot grow the capacity. The thing about capacity also, it doesn't happen overnight. It grows. So if I'm getting demand, I'm getting customers to buy my products. If today you make an order and I cannot even deliver or Tomorrow I can, because I can increase the capacity. Capacity can be easily increased. How long does it take to install new machines? How long that it doesn't take that long. It's all driven by demand.
I'll bring in the argument about quality as well and the market issue, because if the market is not there, why are the foreign products doing so well? But I'll let you hold on there, because our whole discussion about this dollarization will just not go away. We have on the line the Vice President of the Forex Bureau Association, Dr. Akpabule. And Doc, there are some who would also want to put the blame on the doorstep of the Forex Bureau operators in moving the rate and all the rest and contributing to the current pressure on the Ghana cedi. What do you say about these arguments or accusations out there, Doc?
Thank you very much, George. This topic is very, very important to our economy, and I'm so happy that you brought it up. But let me say that this issue have been discussed on several platforms. But then coming from the Forex Bureau Association, let me say that when we're talking about, the rate, the way the dollar is going up, it is an effect and not a cause. Every effect has a cause or multiple causes. So like the discussion going on, some of the causes, if you do the causality, which is the relationship between the cause and the effect, they are not strong. And so if you use them, you will not achieve or you will not find solution to the effect. Okay? So there is a need to look at the real cause. Those causes or causes that is causing the effect. Okay? So why would people would want to buy dollar and keep? Or why would this? I'm trying to tell you some of the reasons why people would want to, tread that path. You see, most of our businesses are in the hands of the foreigners. And therefore, these foreigners, when they are taking their money away, or even if they are traveling out, they won't take your Ghana cedis. So you see the capital flight. Sometimes they don't even get the dollar that they will travel with from the right side. They will not go to the bank. They will not even come to the Forex Bureau. They go to the black market, the parallel market. And where did this parallel market get those from? So these are issues we need to address. The capital flight is just too much. And again, you must also know that money is a store of value. And therefore, if you have cedi in your account, tomorrow if the rate just goes down, what it can buy today, tomorrow it will not be able to buy. You need more cedis. Then every rational economic being would want to keep his cedi into a product that the value can remain, the value can be stable. Okay? And so we are rational economic beings. And I don't think you, George, you keep your cedi in your account and it'll be losing value, and you sit down, you put your hands into your laps. And because you're patriotic and the cedi will be losing value each day, nobody would do that. No rational economic being would want to do that.
Doc, I get those basics, but fast forward, let's look at the current situation now. And it might be uninformed accusation, it might not be well placed, but there are some people who would also want to blame operators like you and your members contributing to the spike in rates and the sentiments and then the speculations. What do you say to that, or how do you respond to that?
Yeah, so we see, we are regulated institutions. The BOG, Bank of Ghana, gave us licenses to buy foreign currency and sell. Okay, so whoever is putting blame on the Forex Bureau or the Ghana Association of Forex Bureau has gotten it wrong, completely wrong. Completely wrong, because what we do, we only buy and sell. We are a regulated institution. Okay, so I don't see why people should be putting blame on the Forex Bureau as the cause of the depreciation of the city that we are seeing. And that's why I'm telling you that depreciation or the high rate is an effect. It's not a cause. So you must rather look at the cause. The very point that those are what I'm telling you, that, you know, one of it is the capital flight. Two, we have so much. The companies in this country are in the hands of foreigners. If and repatriating profit, they will take your Ghana cedis. Even there's a lot of Chinese guys in this country, when they are traveling or they are repatriating profit, they won't take your Ghana cedis. The big businesses in this country, it's not in the hands of Ghanaians. Okay?
Yeah.
And again, we import more than we export. See, so some of these things, which people are blaming for it, it's just laughable.
Doc,
just laughable.
Doc, another quick thing that the Bank of Ghana has tried to do, and since you talk about being regulated, is trying to have a platform where all transactions can be done. Are you compliant with that? That is starting from there recently. And also, the fact that if today George Wiafe walks into your bureau or any of your members, the only means of identifying me for any transaction will be my Ghana card. Two quick things. Are you enforcing this identity Ghana card thing and also this new platform thing as well? Is it really being implemented by all your members?
Oh, yes, we are doing our best. And it's you see, some of this takes time. But I'm telling you that all our members are compliant. We are complying. The BOG has come in to support us to do, the right thing. Okay, once they are doing things, once they do the right thing, we will do the things right. Okay, they are leaders. Once they do the right thing, we will do things right. And therefore, to answer your question simply, yes, we are.
Everyone is complying.
I think they're taking that the Ghana card has been, it's a long time now. So everybody who can walk into a bureau, before you transact a business, we demand your Ghana card. If you're a foreigner, we demand your passport. And this has been ongoing. Now, even there is a new software that have been introduced, which we have started, using alongside with the current one that we'll be using. So things are being regularized. And gradually, our people are compliant. We are compliant. Okay? So that is not an issue. It's not a big issue to solve what is happening. The issue you are discussing. Okay. The issue the Forex Bureau we contribute less than 2% of So we are not, whoever blames us
is wrong.
Totally not getting it right.
Doc, before I let you go, quick one. What is the demand situation now? We are being told that in terms of the rate of depreciation, it is slowing down. Are we seeing demand scaling down, or it is still up on the market when it comes to Forex Bureau, the market? People still demanding more dollars as a store of value and hedging against inflation?
Well, to answer that, you see, I keep saying that, remember that the Forex Bureaus are profit-oriented institutions. Okay, and this particular policy that has come, it has slowed down business. Okay, we are just praying that as time goes on, as education, public education goes on, and people get to understand that if you walk into a bureau, you must use your Ghana card, you must use your passport. If people buy into this, I think it will change. But as you speak now, somebody walked into your bureau, you said, well, look, bring your Ghana card, we want to do maybe a verification. They just move, they just leave. But I know with time, if the education go on well, it will change.
Okay, Mr. Pabli, we'll look forward getting into the studio. I know it's been difficult getting you, so we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for that interesting intervention. Mr. Chimokobo, for you, what is the way forward? It appears that we are touching a very big pulse with respect to trying to have a small discussion on the city, and look at where it's brought us to, Mr. Chimokobo.
Well, the city issue is always an issue, because anytime the city depreciates, the impact is so significant and so negative. And therefore, we need to really have a solution to it. And as I keep saying, we should have different approaches to it. Short term, medium term, and long term. And I'm always looking at the long term because, you see, today we'll be talking so much about it because it's happened recently. If it stabilizes a bit, everybody keeps quiet, go to sleep, we are happy with it, then suddenly it will come again. It's coming again because, as he said, we need to look at the cost, okay? And then the effect will be there. And the major cause is the fact that we are over-importing.
But then the industry manufacturing thing comes in because
exactly.
Is it because it's expensive? Because if I can get that bottle of soft drink or fizzy drink produced by your member here, good and cheap, I don't know why there'll be market for others who are bringing and even smuggling it in at the very substandard. How do we deal with that challenge?
So you see, manufacturing has all kinds of dynamics. One is the cost of production. Your input cost is very important. Other factors that goes into it: cost of electricity, cost of capital, cost of the material itself, cost of labor. If you put all this together and you happen to be a high-cost manufacturing center, then you have a challenge. And unfortunately, that is where we are. Ghana has a high cost of manufacturing. So therefore, it's part of the reason why the imports seem to be cheaper. The other aspect is that manufacturers produce to scale. The reason why products from China, for example, appears to be part of the reason appears to be cheap is the fact that they produce in large volumes. When you produce in large volumes, what you do is that you spread your costs over bigger volumes, and therefore per unit cost comes down. It's economies of scale I'm explaining.
Oh, okay.
So so you enjoy economies of scale. When you enjoy economies of scale, your cost per unit is lower, and therefore you can also afford to sell it at a lower price, and then you become competitive. So that is another aspect. So therefore, sometimes it's the demand and the volume that will drive the price down as well. And therefore, if you really want to support local industries and encourage them to upscale, then they become more competitive. If you say that because we are a bit expensive and therefore you import everything, then you will never be enjoy economies of scale, and then you never get to the point where you become very competitive. So it's a chicken and egg situation. We need to sort out the problem of the cost of production. We need to increase the volumes. And sometimes policies can drive that. The example I mentioned is typical. That government says, if you're a government institution and you are buying stuff, okay, prove to me that there's no local alternatives before you import. That alone can make a significant impact because it may even appear slightly expensive. You can apply in the procurement law, we have it, margin of preference of about 12%. If you apply it, it is possible that if you play within the margin of preference, it will still be worth procuring locally because it may not be that expensive. As you continue to do that, you're actually increasing local demand, and therefore local capacity will increase to match it up, and then the economies of scale will come in. So if you want to manage the situation, you need to look at it holistically. Otherwise, we continue to blame manufacturers, and we talk about quality. Is it that the quality is bad? Quality is not bad. Is it that the price is?
Yeah.
Yes. So the price will always become an issue. I'm not in any way saying that some of our products are not expensive. And it's largely because we are not producing to scale. But there are other aspects of it. If you talk to most of the companies, they even say that you give us a level playing field and we'll be able to survive. If you take the textile companies, that's their cry. Their cry is not about capacity, it's not about pricing. It's not. The pricing comes in because they are being treated unfairly. They think that when they produce their designs, they spend so much investment in doing so. The next day somebody imports it from another country, it's flooding the market, it's not paying the right duties. It's the reason why government came up with a zero VAT, for example. The idea was that let's give them an exemption because the smuggled products are also not paying VAT, so that we can have a level playing field, and that's helping them. So if you have policy that encourages them to create a level playing field, a lot of the companies will be able to survive. In addition to the fact that we have to do other things.
Inflation is trending down per what Ghana Fiscal Service is publishing. How is that impacting on manufacturing firms? Because there's a cost input there as well. Industry inflation, I don't know about that, but the normal CPI is trending down. Has that impacted on your cost of production and also the price effect and demand for your products?
That definitely is positive.
But is that impacting on demand for, because the price effect has been a barrier in times like this? Or let me frame my question that what is the current situation when it comes to demand for products?
I don't think it's gotten worse. I'd rather say that it's more on the positive side.
It's picking up?
It's picking up. I wouldn't say there's been drastic change. I wouldn't say so. But it's picking up gradually. You know, the most important, first, you have to have a stability. If you realize that your volumes are not going down, at least you are doing the same volume, it's good. And then if it's gradually coming up, you know, if it's inching up to the levels you were before, then it's even better. And then if you meet your target, then it's even much better. And then you project into the future, then you expand to take advantage of it. So currently, I think that I would call it more of a stability rather than a significant growth. The growth we are experiencing is marginal. It's very marginal. And if you look at the statistics, the industry growth we experience is not so much in manufacturing. It is more in the extractive industry, and then the GDP growth we experience more in the service sector, and agriculture did quite well. Manufacturing is not doing that well, but then if you track the numbers on quarterly basis, you will actually see improvement in manufacturing as well. So it clearly tells you that the productive sector is actually experiencing real growth, which is good. So even though it's not so significant, if we're able to continue with this, if we're able to consolidate it, and move forward with it, it will make an impact in the country.
I don't know whether I'm wrong with this information I'm putting out, or maybe I'm not accurate. I mean, 2 years ago when things were quite bad, I know that we had reports about some firms asking some workers to, not sacking them, but to stay off for a while because things were bad. Now that things are picking up, are some of them being called back, and those who are also in are not being asked to go home? What is the situation when it comes to staff level issues when it comes to the manufacturing space?
No, I think it's natural that if you are growing your demand and you are getting more customers and your volumes are going up, you naturally need more people to recruit and do jobs for you. The reverse is also true. If your demand is dwindling and you are downsizing, you have no choice than to let people go home. But I will always say that manufacturers and businesses and industries, generally speaking, the first point of call when they have a challenge is not to let people go home.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. I mean, I can say that for sure. I worked in the industry for so many years.
Sorry.
Because see, the thing is that when you are cutting down costs, you are careful in cutting in the areas you cut. Because there are certain areas, if you cut, it's very difficult to resuscitate when the situation improves. There are certain core staff you need, and it takes you years to train them. And labor is not that cheap. It's expensive if you have quality labor force. So you don't want them to go, and then the next time you are looking around recruiting, it takes a while. It's a skill. It takes a while to develop those skills. So your immediate, attempt is not to let them go. Rather find a way. And I remember in one of the companies I visited 2 years ago in Takrade, it says, well, I have a situation on hand. I'm not selling. My volumes are down. The situation is so bad. But I can't let the workers who have come to an agreement with the workers. Instead of getting monthly salary, I give you, some stipends to live on until the situation bounces back. And at least for that reason, people were prepared to wait a little while. Some also employ maybe casual workers. The casuals, they are not permanent workers. As and when you have volumes, then you bring them in to take care of a particular order, and then they leave. So unfortunately, if you are not getting the orders, those casual workers, of course, will not be available for you. And I mean, you cannot recruit them to come and work for you. So normally when industries are looking at downsizing, these are the aspects they look, but their cost staff, they hardly take them away. So at this stage where we are seeing some improvement, there's no way they will cut down the numbers, but they will also not be rushing in hiring. That must also be admitted, that the moment you see a bit of growth, then suddenly you start rushing and hiring, because that's cost to you. Industry works with trends. They would like to monitor for a while. If it gets to a point where they really need to add on, they will add on. And that's how they operate.
Quick one on the outlook, and again, what do you want those who are managing the manufacturing space to do to sustain this recovery? But quick one, I mean, just about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, quick one. What is the latest on this cement pricing thing? You know, there was an LI in Parliament. Has it been withdrawn, or it has taken effect, or per what you have been briefed at AGI, has it taken effect, it's been withdrawn, or what has happened to it?
I don't think it's taking effect, and I don't think it's been withdrawn. I think it's still in Parliament. It was supposed to have a setting of 21 days or so, but I think Parliament went on recess and so many things. So therefore, the 21 days didn't really work as...
So as tonight, it has not taken effect as we speak.
It hasn't taken
What
effect.
has been the level of an engagement to still try and, because the push from your members is that withdraw it and let's deal with some of the...
Well, that discussion is still going on because the companies feel that there's no point in having a restriction on pricing, price fixing. There are avenues to deal with that. And then the minister's point of view is also that, I'm not necessarily saying I'm fixing the price. I want some regulation to come in so that you can't, naturally be changing the prices. So they have points, but I think that as the discussions are going on, we'll have a solution. But the real point is that it's not taking effect.
Quick, going forward, what should those who are managing this space be doing to help sustain this signs of recovery that we are seeing, that we don't get back again, because we are now on a different pedestal now? What should be done as you try and wrap up for you, telling or talking to those who are managing this monetary space or industrial space? What do you have to do to ensure that at least our West should be stabilizing rather than getting worse?
I think that the governance of this whole macro environment is key. And when we met the minister, he said something that I thought was quite significant. And it's the fact that even though it's an election year, in the midterm budget review and this year's budget, they are not overspending. As a matter of fact, they are rather cutting expenditure. This is not to say that we are excited when government cuts expenditure, because government, once they inject resources into the system, it has multiplier effect. So we are not very happy when government cuts expenditure. However, the fact that government says, I'm not going to spend more even though it's an election year, it means that there's some prudence management that is going on, and that is very important. So managing your expenditure is as important as generating your revenue. So that's one aspect. And then the rest,
Senchuma Kabua, as the Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, always has time for us to discuss issues about industries and how to stabilize the sector. My name is George Wiafe. It has been PM Express Business Edition.